Imagine walking down a dark alley late at night and stumbling upon a headless body lying in the dirt. In the 1930s, this wasn't just a scene from a horror movie. It was a terrifying reality for the city of Cleveland. A faceless killer hunted in the shadows, leaving dismembered bodies in his wake, and then vanished without a trace. This is the chilling true story of the Cleveland torso killer. Our story begins in September 1935, in a bleak, poverty-stricken area of Cleveland known as Kingsbury Run. It was a maze of shanty houses, railroad tracks, and desperation. One afternoon, two young boys playing near a gully made a horrifying discovery. Lying in the weeds was the decapitated torso of a man. His head was nowhere to be found, and his body had been drained of blood. Just a short distance away, another headless corpse was found, this one also brutally mutilated. The city was stunned. The level of savagery was unlike anything they had ever seen. The newspapers didn't wait long to give the phantom murderer a name: the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run. As the months turned into years, the body count grew. More victims appeared, often in the same desolate area of Kingsbury Run. A disturbing pattern began to emerge. The bodies were almost always dismembered with gruesome precision, and the heads were frequently missing, making identification nearly impossible. The killer sometimes used chemicals to burn the victim's skin, further erasing their identities. The targets were often the most vulnerable people in society: homeless drifters, prostitutes, and others living on the fringes. These were people who could disappear without anyone raising an alarm for weeks or even months. The Cleveland Police Department was completely baffled. At each crime scene, there were no fingerprints, no witnesses, and no clear suspects. All they had were the horrifying remains of the victims. By 1938, the official count reached at least 12 victims, but many historians and investigators believe the true number could be as high as 20. A wave of fear swept across Cleveland. People began to avoid Kingsbury Run entirely, and wild rumors spread like wildfire. Was the killer a disgruntled doctor with surgical skills? A local butcher who had lost his mind? The precision of the dismemberments led many to believe the murderer had medical training, but there was never any evidence to prove it. The public grew angry and demanded answers. How could such a monster walk free in their city? The high-profile nature of the case eventually attracted the attention of one of the most famous lawmen in American history, Eliot Ness. Fresh off his legendary victory against Al Capone in Chicago, Ness was now Cleveland's public safety director. He was determined to catch the Mad Butcher and restore order to the city. Ness launched a massive and controversial campaign. He ordered sweeping raids on the shanty towns of Kingsbury Run, arresting dozens of vagrants for questioning. In a desperate move, he even ordered the shanty towns to be burned to the ground, hoping to smoke the killer out by destroying his supposed hunting ground. But the murders didn't stop. To make matters worse, Ness began receiving taunting letters, allegedly from the killer himself, mocking the police's failed efforts. It was as if the murderer was enjoying the chaos, watching Ness from the shadows. As the investigation intensified, the police finally zeroed in on a prime suspect, a man named Dr. Francis Sweeney. Sweeney was a World War I veteran who had worked as a field surgeon, giving him the anatomical knowledge needed to perform the dismemberments. He was also known to have a history of mental instability and had been institutionalized before. During interrogations, Sweeney displayed signs of paranoia and a violent temper. He even failed a lie detector test, one of the earliest uses of the device in a major criminal case. But despite Ness's strong suspicions, there was no concrete evidence directly linking Sweeney to the murders. No fingerprints, no DNA, no murder weapon. Without enough evidence to go to trial, Ness had Sweeney quietly committed to a mental institution where he remained for the rest of his life. To this day, many believe Sweeney was the torso killer, while others are convinced the real murderer escaped justice entirely. Then, just as suddenly as they began, the killings stopped. After 1938, no more bodies fitting the killer's gruesome signature appeared in Cleveland. There was no final confrontation, no arrest, no explanation. It was as if the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run had simply vanished into thin air. What happened to him? Some speculate the killer may have died or been institutionalized, pointing to Sweeney's commitment as the reason the murders ended. Others believe he simply moved to another city to continue his horrific work under a different name. In fact, some investigators have even tried to link the Cleveland torso killer to other famous unsolved cases, like the notorious Black Dahlia murder in Los Angeles years later, due to similarities in the mutilations. In total, at least 12 victims were officially attributed to the Cleveland torso killer. Men and women whose identities, in many cases, have been lost to history. They were the forgotten victims of a city gripped by fear. Though the murders stopped, the people of Cleveland never forgot the terror of those years. The case remains officially open to this day, standing as one of America's most terrifying and enduring unsolved serial murder mysteries. The killer preyed on the vulnerable, taunted the police, and then disappeared, leaving behind only a legacy of fear and a long list of unanswered questions. So who was the mad butcher of Kingsbury Run? A brilliant but insane doctor? A clever and transient drifter who slipped through the cracks? Or was it the very man Eliot Ness questioned but could never convict? We may never know the truth, but one thing is certain. The shadow of the Cleveland torso killer still haunts the city, a chilling ghost from America's dark past. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries. Let me know in the comments what you think happened to the torso killer. See you next time.